Yo, what's up, Daveology's extras? Welcome back to another video. Today we are reacting to the most what is this? The darkest version of Spider-Man explained. I'm a big Marvel fan. I've seen all the Marvel projects in the MCU. I've dabbled in the comics here and there, but I don't know too much in the comic side of things. But I'm excited to see these evil versions of Spider-Man. I do know about, the man spider or whatever eating MJ, and I know of the ghost spider down there. He looks really cool. But we're gonna learn a little bit more of these evil versions of Spider-Mans. And without further ado, let's just kick back and enjoy.
The Spider. On Earth 15, Peter Parker gained his powers after being bitten by a radioactive spider and, at some point, bonded with an alien symbiote. However, this version of Peter Parker was a sociopath who took pleasure in hurting others. This would lead to a crime spree severe enough that a jury sentenced him to 67 consecutive life sentences. Very little is known about Peter's life before he bonded with the symbiote, leaving it unclear whether he was ever a hero or simply a killer the creature made worse. He was one of many.
Okay, wait, hold on. Which symbiote did he pair with here? Like, I'm just gonna assume it's Carnage, and we'll keep going. Also, 66 life sentences is a lot. He must have done some kind of massacre or something.
Heroes recruited by the Timebreakers, a group of beings who oversaw the repair of the multiverse, in order to join Weapon X, a team that would travel between realities to fix ones that had become broken or damaged. Going by the name Spider, he was eventually killed when the Timebreakers decided to eliminate the surplus members of Weapon X and its companion team, the Exiles.
Okay, pretty sure this guy here's Vision. We got Deadpool here. I want to say, I don't know. Is this? I don't know. Reminds me of Sabretooth from X-Men Origins, but we're here about Spider-Man.
Long afterward, his body was returned to his home reality and buried in a prison cemetery.
Okay.
Wolf Spider. On Earth 16827, Peter Parker became a villain called the Wolf Spider. Little is known about his origins, though he likely came to his powers the same way most versions of Peter Parker do. However, rather than acting out of responsibility, he instead killed without remorse, targeting anyone who stood for heroism, and used those powers towards exclusively selfish ends. By his own claim, he murdered every hero in his world, including his reality's Miles Morales. To get what he wants, he frequently pretends to ally himself with other villains who possess shards of the Siege Perilous, a mystical object whose fragments he covets, only to betray them once they've served their purposes. He regards heroism and responsibility as pathetic ideals and will destroy anyone who lives by them, including his own multiversal counterparts. And while he hates every version of himself, he reserves a special loathing for the ultimate Spider-Man, openly resenting him for being the center of the multiverse. Wolf Spider's quest began when a shard of the Siege Perilous fell into his world. Using it, he discovered the existence of other universes. He set out to conquer these other universes and wipe out every good counterpart of his he could find. The shard let him travel to the vampire universe, where he faked an alliance with the Lizard King. He fought Blood Spider,
The vampire universe. Is this where Spider-Man 2099 is from? Well, give me his name. I'm gonna guess that he's actually maybe from Universe 2099. But isn't he a vampire? I thought he was a vampire. I don't know, I guess there could be multiple vampire universes. But this wolf spider here, seems pretty evil. He seems to not care about whether you're a hero or a villain, as long as it's for his own personal gain. He's killing both heroes and villains. He killed Miles Morales. You say he's killed like his universe's heroes? Does that include Spider-Man, Thor, Spider-Man? I meant Iron Man, like Thor. Well, I feel like Thor. I don't know. Maybe Thor in this universe is weak. Anyways,
Man and Kid Arachnid and managed to steal that universe's shard. Once the Lizard King was defeated and order was restored, Wolf Spider revealed his true identity and his plan to the heroes. He tried to take their shards as well, but failed before escaping to another dimension. He eventually resurfaced in Kid Arachnid's universe at the New York Police Department, where Spider-Man and Kid Arachnid had already recovered another shard. Wolf Spider took Miles Morales' mother hostage and demanded the shard in exchange for her safety. The heroes were able to free her with the help of Gwen Stacy, but Wolf Spider still managed to eventually get the piece of the shard, which was the last piece he needed to complete the Siege Perilous. With the completed artifact in hand, he set out to conquer the multiverse, leaving ruin in his wake until the multiversal heroes tracked him down. Wolf Spider then began draining the life force of every Spider-Man across the multiverse, overpowering even Gwen and Kid Arachnid. Convinced he could become the one true Peter Parker and the center of the multiverse, he tried to absorb Ultimate Spider-Man's life force as well. However, because he was an evil Peter Parker, the heroic life forces he had stolen poisoned him from the inside, shattering his body across dimensions and killing him. Zombie Spider-Man.
Okay, Zombie Spider-Man. We've seen this guy in action in Marvel Zombies. I think it's a bit different. I feel like I remember something about Zombie Spider-Man, I think. Doesn't he eat Aunt May? Pretty sure he does. I don't know. We'll find out.
On Earth 2149, Spider-Man came across the Avengers facing off against an alternate reality Ash Williams. Colonel America, Earth 2149's version of Captain America, ordered Spider-Man to web Ash up and haul him away. As he did, Ash explained that he'd been hurled into this reality by a zombified sentry. This diseased sentry appeared and passed its zombie plague to several Avengers.
A zombified sentry seems pretty fucking OP. I don't know what you're gonna do against that.
And an infected Colonel America bit Spider-Man.
Okay, I do know like stronger people, like maybe the one above all or the one below all, even though that guy's evil. Probably no. I don't know. I know stronger people, but fucking zombie sentry before zombification is pretty formidable. But yeah, zombie in the mix. Interesting.
Spider-Man faked being infected long enough to pull Ash away from the now undead heroes, but once he revealed he was still human, he abandoned Ash to rush home and protect his loved ones. However, the infection caught up with him first, and despite trying to warn them, he turned and then ate Mary Jane and his Aunt May before becoming a full-blown zombie.
Oh, he ate both.
Killing his family haunted Peter for the rest of his existence as one of the living dead. For a time, only feeding clouded his mind, but when his sanity returned following each meal, he was overwhelmed by guilt and remorse. This was at its starkest after he tore into Magneto during a feeding frenzy, as, upon coming back to himself, he was so disgusted that he wished he were dead. Peter's self-loathing became so persistent that it irritated the other zombies, who chose to embrace the hunger rather than fight it. Despite this, the hunger still exposed an uglier side of Peter, as at one point he admitted to how much he enjoyed devouring J. Jonah Jameson. Though he no longer had any reason to protect a secret identity, Peter continued wearing his mask. And when Luke Cage asked him why, Spider-Man admitted that the shame of killing May and Mary Jane was so crushing that he couldn't stand to see his own face.
So the Marvel zombies are still conscious and aware of what they're doing? Interesting.
Poison Peter Parker.
Okay, this one seems
On
interesting.
Earth 7134, Spider-Man shared the same backstory as the mainline Peter Parker up until his second clash with Morlun, an energy vampire who preys on spider-powered beings. Left cocooned beneath the Brooklyn Bridge, Spider-Man was offered a chance at rebirth by the living embodiment of his spider powers, but he furiously refused and killed it by tearing off its head, leaving his transformation and resurrection unfinished. Sensing this, the Venom symbiote abandoned its host, Mac Gargan, and sought out Peter in his cocoon.
Wait. Mac Gargan. I have to look this up. Yeah. Mac Gargan, the Scorpion, had the Venom symbiote. Interesting. What if Spider-Man Brand New Day, right? I already know we're getting Scorpion in there. Venomized Scorpion question mark? Could go hard. Probably not gonna get it, but could be cool to see if it does happen eventually at some point.
Peter's mind resisted for months, but the symbiote eventually crushed what was left of his psyche and consumed him, filling the void created by his incomplete rebirth. Uatu the Watcher himself stated that nothing of Peter's personality survived this transformation. The resulting creature, born of the mutation, broke into Stark Tower and confronted Peter's Aunt May and his wife Mary Jane. It viewed its own existence as an act of love and a miracle beyond anything anyone could pray for, and intended to share this gift by bonding Mary Jane to a new symbiote offspring. When Mary Jane called it Venom, it dismissed Venom as a failure who never reached his potential and instead called itself Poison. Following confrontations with Wolverine and Luke Cage, Poison again offered Mary Jane its power, but she refused. Poison replied that it could simply reanimate her corpse with a symbiote so she'd be a mindless version of herself, free of her pesky feminine impulses. To spare Luke Cage and Wolverine, Mary Jane agreed to be bonded, vowing to make Poison's life miserable, and this caused Poison to second-guess transforming Mary Jane, and thus he left. Poison instead dug up the body of Gwen Stacy and revived her with a symbiote, transforming her into a creature resembling Carnage. Spider Shadow. On Earth 21619, Peter Parker's life unfolded similar to the mainline Spider-Man until
I feel like I'm not saying as much. I'm more invested in these. And also, on the fucking MCU side of things, talking about seeing a Venomized Scorpion would be cool. How about seeing these evil versions of Spider-Man? I think we are getting an evil Spider-Man in Spider-Man Brand New Day. I think. I'm not sure. There's just some rumors, and I guess we won't know until it comes out. But I'm glad we're getting some other like characters in here that like Luke Cage. I fuck with Luke Cage, dude. Is this Black Cat here? This looks like Black Cat. Let's keep watching.
he bonded with the Venom symbiote. Tormented by recurring nightmares about his failures and convinced his life had fallen apart, Peter grew angrier and more violent as a crime fighter, with his behavior ever more shaped by the symbiote. Eventually, Peter went to the Baxter Building, where
Is this just the one? Is this the one where Spider-Man gets taken by the Venom symbiote? Or is it? Okay, I guess we'll keep watching. Maybe it gets more evil.
Fantastic Four members, Mr. Fantastic and the Human Torch, were disturbed by how much his personality had changed. Worn out, Peter asked to rest while Mr. Fantastic's equipment studied the black suit. In his sleep, he dreamed of the symbiote, urging him to accept that he couldn't protect his loved ones without harming anyone who stood in his way. Mr. Fantastic soon woke Peter and revealed that the black suit was an alien symbiote trying to merge with him both mentally and physically. Peter, however, brushed aside the warning that it could be dangerous and embraced the bond, angrily rejecting Mr. Fantastic's wish to lock the creature away and experiment on it. Hoping to reconcile with his Aunt May, from whom he'd become estranged after dropping out of college, Peter visited her house, not realizing the Hobgoblin had trailed him there. Now knowing Spider-Man's real identity, the villain attacked and set the house ablaze with May trapped inside. Because the symbiote is terrified of fire, Peter couldn't bring himself to go in and save her, and so she died. Channeling his grief and fury at the Hobgoblin, Peter twisted into a monstrous form and killed the Hobgoblin by crushing his skull, swearing to use his power to destroy his enemies before they could take anyone else he loved.
Okay, so yeah, this is pretty much the Venom binding, but Peter Parker accepted the binding fully. And there were some other circumstances that pushed him over the edge. Okay, I got it.
Rendering to the suit's corrupting influence, he began killing criminals outright. He also confronted J. Jonah Jameson, crushing one of his hands as a warning to stop his written attacks against Spider-Man. Worried that he might be targeted next, the Kingpin hired the villains Shocker and Scorpion to take Spider-Man down. Peter killed both of them instead and then came for the Kingpin himself. The crime boss admitted he had uncovered Peter's identity, intending to threaten a family member or partner as leverage, and said he pitied Peter for having no loved ones left just before Peter brutally killed him. Spider-Man's killing spree pushed several of his enemies to unite as the Sinister Six. They found a surprising helper in J. Jonah Jameson, who now saw Spider-Man as more dangerous than the criminals. The group baited him into a remote area using the villain Beetle, but Peter picked them off one by one, killing Mysterio, Rhino, and Electro. Jameson then attacked him by controlling a Spider Slayer, a robot built to hunt Spider-Man. About to kill Peter in a burning barn, Jameson was talked out of it when Peter explained that the suit had been controlling him and revealed he was Peter Parker. An explosion set off by another villain, Kraven the Hunter, caused the symbiote to separate from Peter, and Jameson helped him escape back to his apartment. Upon returning, police surrounded Peter's apartment since the Kingpin had exposed Peter as Spider-Man before dying, so Peter and his friends fled to the roof ahead of the police. He sent Black Cat to take Jameson home and then intended to take Mary Jane home, but along the way the two of them saw the symbiote take over the Fantastic Four's headquarters, swallowing the building in a mass of living alien tissue.
Yeah, that's what I asked about.
At the building, the Avengers, the Mutant Team X-Factor, and part of the Fantastic Four were sizing up the crisis. Peter persuaded Captain America to let him go in and stop the symbiote, but Mary Jane went in after him with the Human Torch following Watson. Eventually, following the symbiote gaining control over a number of heroes, including the Thing and Reed Richards, Peter had the Torch lure the main symbiote.
Wait. Venom can take over multiple people? Interesting.
Presently bonded to Richards using a device that projected a fake appearance to impersonate Spider-Man and trick it into freeing Reed, though the symbiote killed Reed in the process. The Torch then destroyed the symbiote with his flames, releasing everyone controlled by its offspring. Peter then surrendered himself to be put on trial for the murders he'd committed. At the trial, other heroes testified that they too had been unable to resist the symbiotes controlling them, and as a result, he was found not guilty and was eventually invited by the Invisible Woman to join the Fantastic Four.
Never mind, I don't think I have a Fantastic Four or Spider-Man minifigure. I thought I did. But Fantastic Four Spider-Man, I know about him. Okay, the Punishing Spider, I am excited to see. Is this going to even be Peter Parker? Maybe it's Frank Castle gets Spider-Man powers. We'll see.
Punishing Spider. On Earth 71938, after his Uncle Ben was murdered by a burglar, Peter chose to kill the murderer himself rather than hand him over to the police. That decision set the tone for everything that followed. As Spider-Man, he resolved to fight crime by whatever means he deemed necessary. He even held on to the gun that had killed his uncle, both as a weapon of his own and as a constant reminder of what crime had cost him. Also of note is that the radioactive spider that gave Peter his powers bore a distinctive skull-like marking, and Peter modeled his costume after it, incorporating that same skull design into his suit. At first, Peter tried to hold back, sparing his enemies' lives when he could, but when he realized that certain villains would simply return again and again, he decided the only solution was to kill them for good. This came to a head when the Sinister Six, a team of his deadliest foes, kidnapped his Aunt May and Betty Brant. Seeing no other way out, Spider-Man killed the entire group, using weapons he had built specifically to take them all down. Soon after, Peter enrolled at Empire State University, where he met and fell in love with Gwen Stacy. Around this time, a violent turf war broke out between rival mob factions, and the Kingpin came close.
Now, with the punishing spider here in this universe, is Frank Castle the Punisher still a thing? That could be an interesting team up in this universe if it, Frank Castle exists. Could be interesting. Oh, wait, hold on.
Close to seizing control of the entire city before Spider-Man killed him.
Fewer sightings of the Punisher. Maybe the Punisher isn't here, or maybe it's just referring to the spider. We'll see.
Since the factions had mostly wiped each other out, Spider-Man left them to finish each other off. Then the Green Goblin kidnapped Gwen. Spider-Man killed him using ammunition built to breach the Goblin's armor, then barely managed to save Gwen's life. In the aftermath, Peter told Gwen who he really was, proposed to her, and chose to walk away from the vigilante lifestyle, throwing out his costume to pursue a quiet future with her.
Okay.
Back in Black.
Oh, and it's just happily ever after. Okay. Is this another Venom suit? We'll see.
On Earth 9213, Peter Parker's life mirrored that of the mainline Spider-Man right up through the fallout of the superhero Civil War, the conflict that forced superheroes to publicly register their identities. During the conflict, Peter had unmasked himself before turncoating and becoming a wanted fugitive, and as a result had gone into hiding with his Aunt May and his wife Mary Jane. However, now knowing Peter's identity, the Kingpin sent a hired killer after him. Peter's spider sense alerted him to the attack, and he managed to push Aunt May to safety, but the bullet meant for him struck Mary Jane instead, killing her. Consumed by grief and fury, Peter tracked down the assassin, grabbed him by the throat, and forced him to name his employer. When the man admitted the Kingpin had sent him, Peter shot him dead. Peter confessed what he had done to a horrified Aunt May, then put on a black suit. The Kingpin, meanwhile, warned federal authorities that his life was supposedly in danger, and because he was too valuable as an informant to lose, they arranged protection for him by recruiting Iron Man to capture the unregistered Spider-Man. Stark cornered Peter at Rikers, the prison holding the Kingpin, but Peter overpowered him in a brutal fight, even managing to rip Tony's armor apart. After
So not symbiote Spider-Man. He just has a black suit and he just turns not necessarily evil, but it's kind of like the punishing spider one where he got drove to the edge where he just started killing.
Spider-Man tracked down the
Stop pulling
Kingpin,
his
the
punches.
Kingpin had two officers hold Aunt May at gunpoint, warning Peter that any resistance or escape attempt would mean her death. Also that the Kingpin could beat Peter to death himself. Certain that Spider-Man's refusal to kill was a line he would never cross, Fisk shed his prison jacket and squared off against him. However, Peter killed the Kingpin. As a result of witnessing Peter murder Kingpin, May disowned him, and Peter then gave himself up to Iron Man and the authorities, hoping that a jury might understand why he had chosen the path that he did.
Okay.
Last Stand Spider-Man. On Earth 31-2500, Peter Parker shared the same history as his mainline counterpart up until at least the Grim Hunt, a storyline in which the villain Kraven the Hunter is brought back from the dead. In this timeline, Peter killed Kraven shortly after his resurrection, and making that choice sent his life down a much darker path, turning him both colder and more lethal, leading to his eventual expulsion from the Avengers. Embracing his
Okay.
new mindset, Peter took on a new attitude and costume as an anti-hero and began killing his enemies, including killing Dr. Octopus by driving one of his own tentacles through his heart. Years later, Peter found himself on the run.
That'll do it. That'll do it. So okay, Last Stand Spider-Man. Originally I thought, okay, maybe this is a universe where he's the last standing hero, but I don't know. We'll see what happens.
From the police. He visited Aunt May's grave, and when the police confronted him, they offered him the chance to surrender and confess to his crimes, but he refused. He fought them and was ultimately shot down and killed. Spider Shot.
Okay.
On Earth 8351, Spider-Man and Wolverine teamed up for a covert mission set in motion by a woman named Charlemagne. The partnership turned deadly when the two heroes came to blows, and in the chaos, Spider-Man accidentally killed Charlemagne, who died in Wolverine's arms. The two patched things up.
Charlemagne. Why does that name sound familiar? Hold on. Charlemagne, a freelance intelligent agent. I I don't know. Also called Charlie's Most. Dude, I feel like I've heard that name before, but I don't recognize her. So I don't know.
Up later on, and Wolverine offered him a job, seeing it as a chance for Spider-Man to make up for what had happened. Their next assignment took them to the mountains of Russia to retrieve a woman named Alex. Along the
Okay.
way, they were ambushed by a mutant who could control the weather and by the Crimson Dynamo. Wolverine subdued the weather-controlling mutant, while Spider-Man struck the Crimson Dynamo's jaw so hard that it snapped his neck and killed him. After saving Alex, Spider-Man decided to stay with Wolverine, training to sharpen his skills while also building himself a new suit and weapons. He also ended his relationship with Mary Jane Watson and became involved with Alex, who bore a strong resemblance to Gwen Stacy. As Wolverine and Spider-Man continued taking on missions, Peter rose to become one of the world's best assassins and would eventually participate in various multiversal adventures alongside several other Spider-Men.
Okay,
Pestilence.
interesting. All right, let's see what the pestilence is about. Like pestilence, as in like the horseman. All right, let's see.
Spider-Man. On Earth 5701, when the Conqueror Apocalypse set out to dominate the world, he captured 4 people he considered worthy and corrupted them into his servants, known as his Horsemen.
Okay.
One of them was Spider-Man, transformed into the Horseman
So it is like the horseman. Okay.
called Pestilence, changing him into a creature with 4 arms and 4 legs.
Yeah.
3 of these horsemen, Pestilence, Famine, and Death, crossed paths with Deadpool and his allies, who had come to this alternate reality while searching for their own world's version of Cable. The 2 sides fought, and the horsemen were ultimately defeated.
Oh, okay.
Ghost Spider.
Okay, here we go. I'm
On
excited
Earth
for this one.
11638, Peter Parker's Uncle Ben was never killed and was thus able to help Peter learn to use his spider powers. Peter grew
okay.
into the Amazing Spider, a beloved and famous superhero who was also a wealthy, successful scientist who ran his own company, Parker Technologies.
Yeah, okay.
Determined to become the strongest hero possible, he built a machine to capture alternate versions of himself from other realities and drain their life force into his own body to increase his strength and abilities. He killed countless other Spider-Men this way, growing
Okay.
so powerful that he was able to defeat Thanos and even Galactus, but the life-draining became an addiction in and of itself.
Ooh, Galactus. Now that's a big shot. That's one of the Celestials, right? Yeah. I don't know why I get that mixed up. I don't know. I was about to say elementals, but I was like, no, it's not. No, no. It's a team of heroes. Yeah, one of the Celestials. That's a big shot. Big shot guy he killed. All right.
One he couldn't break free from. This Peter eventually kidnapped the Spider-Man of Earth 616, tricking him into believing he had ended up on Earth 11638 by accident. And Spider-Man came to realize that this universe was something of a perfect version of his own. After visiting Parker Technologies, he discovered that the Amazing Spider already knew who he was, and that this universe's Ben Parker was still alive. Spider-Man decided to visit Ben, and the two talked about the differences between their realities and their lives, but over the course of the conversation, Ben handed Peter a tea laced with a sedative. Peter woke up in the Amazing Spider's lair, named the Web, hooked up to a machine designed to drain his powers and transfer them to the Amazing Spider. However, Spider-Man escaped, and over the course of a fight between the two, the Amazing Spider was convinced that what he had done was not truly heroic. When Ben was about to connect a distracted Spider-Man to the machine, the Amazing Spider stepped in the way and let the machine absorb his own powers instead, seemingly killing him. It was later revealed that he had been put in a coma, while his spirit was trapped in hell. When his universe's Dr. Bruce Banner, who served as the Sorcerer Supreme, died fighting his own evil alter ego, the
Wait. Run that back. Dr. Bruce Banner, the Hulk, was the Sorcerer Supreme. Now, isn't that interesting? Interesting.
Infernal Hulk, he survived in an astral form. He freed Parker and infused him with the spirits and powers of the repentant damned, giving him a second chance at life. Parker woke from his coma to discover he had become the Ghost Spider. He then returned to Parker Technologies and finished building an interdimensional translocator to send the Spider-Man of Earth 616 back to his own universe. Spider-Man.
That's all we get? Okay, I guess we get the origin, but like, I was hoping for some like maybe adventures. Okay, Spider-Man. This looks like it's just a bunch of spiders. Okay, let's see.
On Earth 11580, Peter Parker was a gifted young student who, together with his best friend Gwen Stacy, was invited by scientist Max Modell to tour his cutting-edge company, Horizon Labs. During the visit, the two watched one of Modell's experiments, where a colony of spiders was blasted with radioactive particles in an attempt to alter their genetics. Peter Parker fell into the colony and appeared to be eaten alive. But as it happened, the spiders merged into a single hive mind being that absorbed his consciousness. Posing as the man it had consumed, this—
Who's this guy with the flaming pumpkin head? Maybe he'll say who it is.
This collective called itself Spider-Man, donned a costume, and took up fighting crime. Eventually, a villain known as the Goblin Queen and her servants began—
Is that the Goblin Queen then? That with the pumpkin head?
bombing and abducting people at random. When Norman Osborn as the Green Goblin attempted to abduct Gwen, Spider-Man arrived just in time to stop him. As Spider-Man faced down a trio of goblins, a villain named Jack-o'-lantern struck him from behind, slashing open the back of his costume. Instead of finding a man, Jack-o'-lantern was met by a swarm of spiders, which overwhelmed him, crawled up his mask, and tore off his head, horrifying the other villains and sending them fleeing. Gwen Stacy witnessed all of this, but was still convinced that Peter could be rescued. She tried to persuade him that the research done at Horizon Labs might still turn him back into the person he once was, but Spider-Man rejected her, warning her that he could never be anything but a monster, and that she needed to stay away. He then vanished into a nearby alley, leaving behind only his empty costume. Ruins Peter Parker. On Earth 9591, to pay his way through college, Peter Parker took a job at the Daily Bugle. One day, while experimenting on a radioactive spider, he was bitten by it, but rather than gaining superpowers and becoming the hero Spider-Man, the bite triggered a mutant virus in his body, turning him into a disease carrier. Shortly
Oh,
before the
okay.
first signs of his infection appeared as a contagious rash, Peter made one last visit to the Daily Bugle, where he unknowingly passed the virus to reporter Philip Sheldon. This exposure killed Sheldon as a result of giving him cancer.
Oh.
Peter himself was later placed in quarantine as the rash spread to cover his entire body. Spider-Man Reign.
Okay, so that one is like, okay, he still got bit by the radioactive spider, but he didn't get powers. He actually just got like radioactive poisoning and whatnot, and was contagious and killed people with cancer. Okay.
On Earth 7237, Peter Parker, once the hero Spider-Man, was an elderly man who had given up crime fighting and worked in a flower shop. His wife, Mary Jane Watson, had died of cancer caused by years of radioactive exposure to Peter. New York City was now a safe but oppressive police state ruled entirely by Mayor Waters and his advisor Edward Sachs.
Okay.
Both heroes and villains had been banned as super terrorists, and order was kept by a harsh police force known as the Reign. One day, Peter was fired from the flower shop after sending the wrong flowers and ruining a couple's wedding. After witnessing Reign agents arrest a local youth, getting beaten in an attempt to prevent them, and being blamed for the arrest by a nearby girl who had escaped Reign custody, Peter arrived back home. While there, Peter found himself tormented by memories and hallucinations of Mary Jane. At the same time, Mayor Waters unveiled the web system run from his tower, which would seal off the city behind an energy barrier, so no one could come or go without government permission. That night, Peter was awoken by knocking and answered the door in his underwear to find J. Jonah Jameson, his old boss, who was holding a package. But Peter said nothing and shut the door. Frustrated, Jameson started vandalizing a car on the street, leading to a scuffle with two Reign officers. Back inside, Peter opened the package and found a camera and his old black suit mask. Wearing only the mask and his underwear, he intervened and defeated the officers, picturing himself young and in his prime again. However, when Jameson asked if Spider-Man was truly back, Peter punched him and walked off. The next morning, Peter regretted it all and begged his hallucination of Mary Jane to pack so they could flee the city before the web barrier sealed it shut.
Okay, this is just old man Spider-Man. Sorry, just old man Spider-Man fighting the military police state that he's in now.
But she just stared silently out the window. Meanwhile, Jameson took to the streets declaring Spider-Man's return, drawing a crowd of young supporters, while the Reign-controlled Daily Bugle News Network painted Spider-Man as a dangerous lunatic. Alarmed by Spider-Man's reappearance, Mayor Waters and Sachs released 6 of Spider-Man's old enemies from prison. Sachs also pushed Webb to activate that very night. He explained that this newly named Sinner 6 had been promised freedom from both prison and New York if they killed their old foe, after which Webb would keep them permanently locked out. When Waters questioned whether they could be trusted, Sachs revealed that each villain had remote detonation explosives implanted inside them in case they turned on Reign. Back in the city, the girl who had originally accused Peter was led by a boy named Casey to a rundown church where a large group of kids were gathered to hear Jameson's speech. At Jameson's request, Casey hacked every screen and device in the city to broadcast Jameson's speech, along with Spider-Man's home address. A crowd soon gathered outside Peter's apartment.
So, what the heck? Jameson is just forcing this guy back. This is just an old man. Let him live his life in peace. They're just forcing him back into the fight. Who's this guy?
Among them was an elderly hypno-hustler, a former villain who used music to control people, coming out of retirement to help his old enemy. He used his boombox to force the Reign agents in the crowd to dance, but the aging device ran out of battery, and the agents killed him. Inside, Mary Jane was staring out the window once again, which finally drew Peter to look outside. Reign agents spotted him and fired a missile at his apartment. The apartment was destroyed, but as the smoke cleared, Spider-Man leapt out cheerfully in his full black costume, taunting his enemies just as he had once done in his prime. When a Reign agent tried to arrest Jameson, the crowd of kids and adults attacked the agent. The girl believed they'd been inspired by watching Spider-Man fight again, but the crowd's courage collapsed when Kraven appeared, impaling Casey on his large knife, with the rest of the Sinner Six standing behind
Just like that's crazy. I mean, I know they're villains. That's insane.
him. Cornered by the Sinner Six, Spider-Man was beaten, and Kraven tore off his mask as the crowd's spirit sank even further when they saw their hero was just an old, defeated man. At the last moment, he was saved by the late Dr. Octopus, a former enemy whose mechanical tentacles were still active after his death in order to carry out his final command. They brought Peter to the graves of Mary Jane, Aunt May, and Uncle Ben, forcing him to face his grief. Meanwhile, in the mayor's tower, a captured Jameson lashed out at Waters and Sachs, only for Sachs to reveal his true identity as Venom. Venom activated the web system to project his own substance across the city, transforming New Yorkers into symbiote-controlled slaves under his command, while the barrier kept everyone trapped inside. He explained he was doing this so he'd never be alone again, as he had been after the death of his former host, Eddie Brock. Back at the gravesite, Octopus's tentacles dug Mary Jane's body from her coffin and placed Peter's arms around her, forcing him to confront his deepest fear, that in her final moments, she had told him to go in disgust when he wanted to leave and stop a robbery. Instead, he realized she had meant, "Go get him, Tiger." The tentacles then buried themselves, Octopus's body and Mary Jane together in a new grave, while Peter climbed into MJ's old coffin to retrieve his classic red and blue suit, which he had buried with her. Elsewhere, the girl from earlier was chased by a large symbiote and fled back to the ruined church.
Didn't she get
Where the kids had regrouped after the riot. The symbiote caught up and absorbed the children there. In desperation, the girl struck the church bell and kept striking it when she saw the sound hurting the creature. She rallied the surviving kids to use this discovery, along with their youth and determination, to drive the symbiotes back toward the tower. Spider-Man made it to the tower and began climbing it, where he killed or took down the Sinner Six one by one, all except the Sandman, who was on the ground floor. There, the girl and other kids from the church arrived, having pushed some of the symbiotes back to the tower. Sandman yelled at them to go home. The girl gave a speech linking anger, courage, and truth, then revealed her own power. She could turn her body into solid cement. The rain guards then opened fire, scattering the rest of the kids, even as Sandman screamed at them to stop, having realized the girl was his daughter. She held her ground as the gunfire broke her limbs into chunks, and Sandman turned on the guards. He tried to comfort her and explain how to regenerate, but symbiotes interrupted him, and after driving them off, he found she had reverted to human form and died. At the top of the tower, Spider-Man confronted Venom. The fight spilled up to the tower's peak, where the web system sat, and Spider-Man was losing the fight as Venom summoned every symbiote to the tower to help him. At the last moment, Sandman arrived, having apparently killed the fleeing mayor on his way to the top of the tower, and handed Spider-Man the detonator for the explosives implanted in his teammates. Spider-Man triggered it, and the bodies of the six, scattered across the tower's many floors, exploded, destroying the tower, the web, Venom, and the symbiotes. With Venom and Rain defeated, Jameson reported that crime had climbed back to where it was years ago, but so had the superheroes. Visiting Mary Jane's grave, Peter said he'd join her in peace one day, but until then, he still had responsibilities to attend to. House of M, Spider-Man.
Let's see what this one's about.
Earth 58-163 was created by Wanda Maximoff when driven to madness by her own reality-warping powers and grief over losing her children. Wanda reshaped the world into one where people she loved each received their deepest wish. Much like the mainline Spider-Man, Peter was raised by Aunt May and Uncle Ben and attended Midtown High School. He was bitten by a spider that had been hit by a particle beam and given spider-like powers, which he used for underground wrestling to make money. After a match against Crusher Hogan, a talent scout in the crowd promised to set up a TV appearance, so Peter rushed home and built himself a more elaborate costume, and with that, Spider-Man was officially born. After his first television appearance, Peter tackled a burglar fleeing past him, saving the wrestling arena's owner thousands of dollars. Grateful, the owner thanked him by promising Spider-Man a starring spot in his brand new wrestling league. The league became a massive hit with Spider-Man as its star. As the money came in, Peter decided to show his aunt and uncle the abilities the Spider-Bite had given him. May was frightened by them at first, but Ben was overjoyed. Proud of his nephew and able to see that these powers had given Peter a confidence and self-belief he'd never seen before. Around this time, a mutant-human war broke out in earnest. The press accused Spider-Man of being a mutant, and Peter wanted to deny it, but Uncle Ben urged him to stay silent. Ben could see that Peter had become an idol to mutants everywhere, and he believed that if Peter could give hope to children born different from ordinary humans, he should.
Wait, hold on. I was about to actually be wrong. I was like, I don't think Spider-Man's mute. Okay. I was about to be wrong, so I'm gonna shut up. But okay, I guess we should just keep going. I was gonna ask, like, okay, this Peter Parker seems pretty good for the moment. The only thing kind of bad he's done is the illegal underground wrestling. But I guess we'll see what happens.
Ben's advice paid off when the war ended with mutants victorious. As the most public and beloved mutant, Peter revealed his real identity and became an international superstar, working as both a wrestler and an actor. He even starred in a film alongside his high school friend Mary Jane Watson. A controversial choice since ordinary humans rarely landed major leading roles, but the movie launched Mary Jane's career and cemented Peter as a movie star. Soon after, Peter stepped back from public life. He married his high school sweetheart, Gwen Stacy, and the two attended college together, both earning doctorates. When Peter returned to the spotlight, he and Uncle Ben founded Spider-Man Incorporated, branching into many fields including science and charity work. With a family that now included his young son, Richard, Peter Parker had become the envy of the world and its most popular mutant, yet he soon sensed that something was wrong, and he had begun to worry about his secret. What would happen if the world learned he wasn't truly a mutant? The world did find out when J. Jonah Jameson discovered a journal of Peter's. Inside was not only the truth that Peter was not a mutant, but also that he knew this world wasn't the way things were meant to be. That Gwen, Uncle Ben, and Gwen's father were all supposed to be dead. It would later...
Okay, I was right. I don't know why I doubted myself. Yeah, Peter Parker's not a mutant. He's a mutate. That's right. I don't know why I questioned myself. I just didn't want to... I don't know. I didn't want to be wrong.
Come to light that the Green Goblin had led Jameson to the journal. This changed everything. The world turned against Peter, so much so that at one point a boy was nearly beaten to death simply for wearing a Spider-Man shirt. Most shocking of all, it was in fact Peter himself, dressed in the Green Goblin outfit, who had given Jameson the journal, wanting the truth to be revealed. When Gwen and the rest of the family read the journal, they assumed Peter had invented the whole thing and that he had lost his mind. And in the end, Peter and his family moved to the countryside to live a quiet, peaceful life.
Okay, that one wasn't even really that bad. Is that the
What
end?
other lore?
Yeah, that was the end. Yeah, that wasn't that bad. That last one. But yeah, sorry. That was a bit of a longer video. My bad. But it looks like there's two other ones. There's like a volume 2. There's more dark versions of Spider-Man explained. You got this one. You got volume 2 and volume 3 right there. So if you guys want to learn more or want to see me react to more dark versions of Spider-Man, leave a like down below and I will react to those. But yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna head out and you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.